First this hour, the Prime Minister will make the most important phone call of the year so far after the US President announced plans to impose a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminium imports. It'll be the first time in 3 months that the leaders have spoken.
National Party Senator Matt Canavan taking the opportunity to slam Australia's ambassador to America.
It is a mess of the Prime Minister's own making here. He appointed Kevin Rudd after Kevin had made the injudicious comments about Donald Trump, and having dug that hole, he needs to dig us out of it.
Anthony Albanese is likely to point to AUKUS, our defence alliance with America and the UK, as well as Australian steel company BlueScope, which employs thousands of people in the US. Let's go to Queensland Premier David Crisafulli now. Premier, good morning to you. The PM showdown phone call with Donald Trump. A lot riding on it.
It sure is, and a lot riding on it for Queensland as well. I know these trade wars, they're always complex, but I do see an opportunity for us. If we can lean on that arrangement, those bonds that came through AUKUS, if we can continue to find different markets, in the end, we've got goods and services that other nations really need. And I do think it's an opportunity, but yeah, it's a pretty important day for the nation, Carl.
I guess it's a bit of a shock, right? Coming from Donald Trump, you would expect that, though. Would you have gotten on the phone a bit earlier to the US President if you were the PM?
Hey, look, I'm not the PM, that's a matter for him, but what we need to do now is find a way through it, right? Like, it's important we find a way. This is something that can happen. You have a change in leadership, you can have people wanting to flex muscles and create tension, and that's all part of dealing with diplomatic relations. But in the end, I look at the things that we have. We have the best steel-making coal in the world. It's the best quality, it's mined to the highest environmental standards, it's got the highest worker safety. We have the best minerals in the world. So in the end, there's a price that people are willing to pay on that. And I think we can lean on our relationships. We are seen as a good trading partner. We're seen as a very a stable place to do business with. In an era of uncertainty, that actually can provide a point of difference. There's a genuine opportunity if we get this right, and I think we can.
Anthony Albanese will hold a crucial phone call with Donald Trump today. The PM under pressure to exempt Australia from Donald Trump's looming 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium. The move already sparking market jitters and a dip in the value of the Aussie dollar. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is Minister for Social Services Amanda Rishworth and Queensland Senator Matt Canavan. Good to see you both. Amanda, talk about a pre-election test for the PM. How confident are you that he'll be able to persuade President Trump to spare us?
Well, firstly, I would say that our Prime Minister has demonstrated during his time to be able to develop really important person-to-person relationship with world leaders across the globe and has delivered results for Australia. And I know that our Prime Minister will always back Australia's national interests, and I think Australians know that. So we will work very hard. He has obviously already had a phone call with President Trump before he actually took position in the White House. Our Foreign Minister was one of the few world leaders invited to the inauguration. Of course, we've been building those person-to-person links through our government. So, look, we are working very hard and we'll keep working very hard using every channel available to us.
I guess that's what makes it a bit more of a concern. We do have such strong ties with the US, but we're not exempt. I mean, Matt, Australia exported about $640 million worth of steel and $440 worth of aluminium to the US last year. That is low in comparison to Canada and Mexico, who seem to be the big targets for Trump. But how much is at stake for us if these tariffs are imposed?
Well, look, obviously it's important. It is a mess of the Prime Minister's own making here. He appointed Kevin Rudd after Kevin had made the injudicious comments about Donald Trump, and having dug that hole, he needs to dig us out of it here. It's up to him now. The test is on him. But we shouldn't also panic either, as you say, where they're not our biggest market for these products. We saw China impose trade bans on us a few years ago on our coal and our barley. We got through that because we've got a very good product. We can sell it to other countries. Yeah. What we should be focused on too is our own internal tariffs. We put a carbon tax on all of these factories. We put a carbon tax on aluminium smelters. We put a carbon tax on steel mills, thanks to this government. Why don't we get rid of that tariff? Get rid of that tariff. Yes, you do. They're under the safeguard mechanism. They're one of the 216 facilities under the safeguard mechanism.
What we have done,
they face a carbon tax.
What our Prime Minister has done, we have announced significant support recently for the aluminium industry to support support them with
They face
reliable
attacks.
energy to ensure that they have a long-term future. That's what our government's been doing, is backing industry and not playing politics with this.
But this is how absurd it is. This is how absurd it is. You put a tax on them, a carbon tax on them, and then you go around and take taxpayers' money that everyone has to pay for to subsidise them. There is. It's called the Safeguard
Mechanism.
Mechanism.
No carbon tax. And quite frankly, to suggest that we shouldn't be supporting the aluminium industry, secure
I said we shouldn't be taxing them.
Long-term energy is ridiculous.
That's what we shouldn't be doing. Why are we taxing them?
All right, well, you did make a couple of points there, Matt, and I just want to ask you, Amanda, because you were shaking your head when he mentioned Kevin Rudd. Joe Hockey was instrumental in protecting Australia last time Trump imposed these tariffs during his first administration. We know the relationship is a bit tenuous when it comes to Kevin Rudd and the US administration. Are we concerned?
Look, Kevin Rudd has been doing an excellent job building relationships in the US, as has our Defence Minister, our Foreign Minister. As I indicated, our Foreign Minister was one of the few leaders to be invited to the inauguration. So
yeah, right.
I am just concerned, Matt, you're just making this into a political football. Really, we should be all acting in our national interest and working together.
Matt was saying it's probably not so much of a concern, and if we talk about, Chinese still potentially flooding the market, there are already really tough anti-dumping laws, so we're unlikely to see that play out here as well.
In the coming hours, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will hold urgent talks with US President Donald Trump, pleading for Australia to be spared from steel and aluminium tariffs. For more, we're joined by Australian Industry Group CEO Innes Willox in Canberra. Good morning to you, Innes. Nice to see you. That's where it's all happening today. There's a lot at stake here.
There sure is, Carl. This has sort of come as a bolt from the blue, but there is a lot at stake. There's about 120,000 jobs in aluminium and steel, big exports to the United States. And, of course, if this goes ahead, it completely destabilises global trading and, we could be really collateral damage as part of that. So this call today is maybe the most important of the Prime Minister's time in office. Nobody's expecting him to resolve it today, but we've got to get the foundations in place to resolve this, to get Australia exempted, as we were back in 2018 from tariffs on US steel.
Well, just on that, Donald Trump did impose similar tariffs during his first term. Australia was exempt then. Why are you thinking that it may not happen this time?
Well, it may happen, but it may not happen immediately. That, in 2018, came after about 2 years of pretty tortured negotiations, and in the end, we didn't get a carve-out for Australia, we got a carve-out for what Australia makes, and that's what we have to be looking for this time. We're a big trading partner with the United States. We have a huge security relationship with the United States. We have a free trade relationship with the United States. All of this puts us on solid footing to get exempted here, but we're dealing with the new President Trump, and this perhaps wasn't a surprise that he did this, but the timing sure was.
Well, none of it should be a shock, you're right, none of it. How hard is it to diversify with the countries that we do business with?
Well, it is going to be hard because we export about $800 million worth of steel and aluminium to the United States, but we import about 4 times that from around the world. So, if this goes ahead, it really does throw a spanner in the works for a really important industry, which is particularly in regional centres. Think of where steel plants are, aluminium plants are. They're in regional Australia. And all those jobs I mentioned, over 120,000, they're not all at stake, but a lot of them are hanging in the balance because of this decision that the administration's made.
Well, there are warnings we'll be paying more for electronics and white goods as our weak Aussie dollar puts pressure on imports.
For more, we are joined by Investment Portfolio Manager June Bailey. June Bailey, good morning to you. So talk us through these price hikes we could potentially see.
Yeah, look, with the Aussie dollar has fallen quite a lot, so the price hike is coming through. But right now, we have not started seeing it because a lot of retailers hedge their currency. So in the next 6 months or so, we started seeing price hike at least between mid-single digit to high single digit, if not more. So, it is definitely coming unless Aussie dollar take another turn. It really depends on where the interest rate is going relative to the US
We'll certainly be paying more than what we are right now.
Yeah,
okay, let's talk about tariffs. Donald Trump coming out yesterday saying blanket 25%. We saw the impact that immediately had on steel and aluminium stocks. There was big losses across the board. How nervous is that weight for our companies for some level of understanding whether it's going to go ahead?
Yeah, look, there has been nervousness for the aluminium companies, and our steel company, the listed BlueScope, actually manufacture a lot of their product there in the US. So share price is the only one that actually went up, and there's a lot of demand for that one. Now, I think in general that most of the investors are reasonably pragmatic. There's an initial sell-off, a bit of fear, but I think, you know, Donald Trump is essentially targeting, putting every country, you know, on alert and saying, well, we'll do a better deal for us. I do think that 25% will be walked back because ultimately it's bad for the US consumer. Prices will go higher. It's not great for, you know, his economy when the interest rate needs to fall. So, you know, I do think that will walk back somewhat, but at this stage, it's just volatility.
Yeah, absolutely. Donald Trump volatility go hand in
Oh,
hand.
absolutely, yeah.
Probably need to find another country, several
to
countries.
target, that's right.
Thanks, Jim Bay.